So I'm sitting here with Samson Guloba, who is the Executive Director of BUWEDDA, and who's also really the driving force behind everything that BUWEDDA does. And Sam, I just wanted to ask you a few questions about your history with BUWEDDA.
You're welcome.
So why did you start BUWEDDA in the first place?
Yeah, BUWEDDA was started in the year 1999, and this came as a result of the situations and circumstances that were surrounding the women and girls with disabilities within Uganda. A number of girls and women were being harassed, being raped, being abused and denied their rights, access to education. So for me, during that time as a young man who was in school, and I witnessed some of these sufferings within our neighborhood, I decided to take on this head-on by mobilizing some women and holding meetings in the community to find a way on how we could have a voice, and a stronger voice that could speak out against the evils that was being done on this section of community, the part of community members. And then after bringing the women together, we realized young girls cannot be given freedom freely to come and participate in the activities. So we had to address, to look at the other forces of the women, the parents who take care of these children, so that they are also on board, and we can be able now to address the challenges together. Now, BUWEDDA's membership is taking up women with disabilities, the girls with disabilities and children, and then the parents of those children. And then another thing was that when you are addressing, when we started moving along the way, we discovered that the women were participating in other organizations, but what became unique, that specifically we should have an organization addressing women needs, is because they were still in those groups dominated, and they were not being given the opportunity to come out to express themselves. And women have been very shy. So given the group of the women that I started up with, whom I brought on board, who were senior, they were older women, but could not mobilize their friends. When I sat with them and they realized that they had their force behind, so we came up, and these were Kakai Rose and another lady called Mokanze Stella. And this brought us the formation and the establishment of BUWEDDA Uganda as an organization which is working. And then the focus was, what is the difference? We have these women who are already living in urban centers, who are disabled. At least they're having access to economic factors, they can go to markets, they can also, like they were being given alarms, some handouts. But those in the rural areas, entirely where girls are left home to serve as padlocks. Actually, when the parents go to the gardens, these disabled girls are left to stay home. Then the women are just, even if a man comes in pregnant, again, it's a burden to the family. They keep abusing, even denying her food. They construct shelters behind the houses, and that's where they accommodate them. So that was exposing many of them to sexual harassment and abuse. Because it's once young men and men know that these people are sleeping behind there where there's no signal, they creep in and use them and go away, leave them. So to me, I felt we needed a voice, and the voice was BUWEDDA. And when they brought the women together, women speak for themselves. Me, I'm a liberated man, a force behind to push forward. That is what drove me to start BUWEDDA, an organization.
So what is your biggest dream for BUWEDDA, and what's the biggest challenge that you have in achieving that dream?
My biggest dream for BUWEDDA is to have a society where women with disabilities are taking charge and are being considered in every aspect of life that affected them. That is to do with the health. They are able to get all the information about health, reproductive health, and sexuality. They can own their bodies. They can speak like any other woman. They have freedom to get married. They have freedom to work and earn their income, and nobody takes it away from them. They can own property, and they make decisions on every matter in the community that affected them. That is my biggest dream. My biggest challenge in achieving that is the limited resources and in getting the cooperation of the local leadership, the authorities that be. This is the law enforcers, the police, whereby today you find still the police, even if cases are reported, they want you to facilitate them. They want the organization to facilitate, but I want the law, the policies. Uganda has a constitution which provides for the protection of these marginalized groups, but the implementation is the challenge. Now, to me, to us as BUWEDDA as an organization, is to ensure that we empower these communities, all the leadership, to know their rights. And once they have known their rights, then we shall demand the police, because the police, the law enforcers are servants of the community. And these are the, but once someone who is supposed to be served is ignorant of the right, then their rights are denied. So, however, to achieve this, given the remote areas we work in, which are sparse, and the community of the women that we work with are people who have been already marginalized and denied their rights of education. So since they are illiterate, they cannot read the laws. And since they are poor, here in Africa, they say a poor man has no voice. And when you go to the meeting, you should sit down and don't talk. It's only those who have who can talk. Now, if the women are still poor and they cannot earn an income to themselves, they are not being educated, then they are not having access to factors of production. That keeps it a biggest challenge. And that will mean to have those factors addressed, we must have some access to resources, like a funding to empower these women, do their own work, to raise their own income. Once they can generate their own income, they can do a work that outside their homes, which gives them income. Then they are able to fund activities, they are able to support their children, and they are able to speak out. Because they can afford to have accommodation, they can afford to have food, they will not be depending on anybody to make their decision, so they can make personal decisions. And if the person can make a personal decision, then that person can move out to influence. And the way BUWEDDA builds its structure is to build pressure from below. Let's have the groups come up from the village to the parish, then to the sub-county, then we move to the district. And then that force will move to the national level, and we shall have the vision achieved.
I have no doubt that you will achieve your vision, Sam, but thank you so much for talking to me, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes.
It's been great.
Yes, thank you, sir.